يفنى الكل ويبقاه ليس الباقي إلا هو. الله 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 ما لي رب إلا هو.
Sayyidina Shaykh Khwaja Ghareeb Nawaz radiyallahu ta'ala. He was born in a place called Sajz. Sin, Jim and Za. Sajz. And as time passed, people wrote it in many, many places. The nukta of the Za, the dot on top of the Za, moved slightly towards the right and it appeared as though it was a noon. So people started saying Sanja. Okay? So the actual place is Sajz. And it's not Sanjari, it's Sajzi. Okay, this is the tahqiq of Sayyidul Ulama, Allama Shah Ali Mustafa Marehnavi, radiyallahu ta'ala. And maybe other ulama have said Sanjari, maybe that is correct. There are different narrations. But Sayyidina Khwaja Ghareeb Nawaz was born in a place called Sajz. His father passed away. In the same way Sayyidina Shaykh Al-Qadiri radiyallahu ta'ala's father passed away, and he was brought up by his mother. Sayyidina Khwaja Ghareeb Nawaz radiyallahu ta'ala was also brought up by his mother. And when we look at the pages of history, we find that the mother of Sayyidina Khwaja Ghareeb Nawaz radiyallahu anh was the maternal cousin of the mother of Sayyidina Shaykh Al-Qadiri radiyallahu anh. Now Sayyidina Khwaja Ghareeb Nawaz radiyallahu anh, he received a garden in inheritance from his father. And in that garden was a machine that used to grind grain into flour. So a milling machine. When he received that from his father, and his father was Sayyid Ghayasuddin, his father was a Hussaini Sayyid, and his mother was a Hassani Sayyid. Ummul Wara was the name of his blessed mother. Sayyid Ghayasuddin used to, although he was a wali of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but this has been the way of the awliya kiram, that they would work with their hands and earn. It's the sunnah of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, sunnah of the awliya kiram. The Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam mentioned many virtues for it. He used to work and he used to grind grains into flour and he used to distribute it to the people in sense. And he used to have a garden in which fruit grew and he used to sell that fruit. Sayyidina Khwaja Ghareeb Nawaz radiyallahu ta'ala, at a young age, a boy named Hassan, he took over that garden and he would look after the fruits, sell the fruits, and he would grind flour. That's what he used to do. He reached the age of 15 and spent his previous years in this work. When once he was distributing flour to customers and looking after the garden, and a mad man walked into his garden. And this mad man is he who was mad in the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He was a majzoob. So he was a madman, but he was mad in the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Majzoob, that is what a majzoob is. He is madly in love, truly, deeply and completely engrossed in the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That he is not aware of what is happening around him. He is far beyond. Sayyidina Imam Jalaluddin Rumi radiyallahu ta'ala says, okay, I was on the verge of insanity, knocking on its door. The door opened, I was already on the inside. What does that mean? Allah knows best what he means, but from my understanding, he's saying I was on the verge of insanity. I thought I was becoming insane. And I was knocking on the door of insanity. I was about to go into insanity. But when the door opened, I realized I am already in insanity. That is sanity. Being lost in the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not insanity, that is the actual sanity. Insanity is being aware of what is happening around you in the world. So when we say he was a madman in the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the reality is that we are the mad people. They are the ones who are living in sanity. This majzoob of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was Shaykh Ibrahim Qanduzi radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. He walks in and the people know him as someone who is mad in the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. People don't like to interact with him. Imam Ahmad Raza radiallahu ta'ala has mentioned in his Malfuzat that when there is a person who is a majzoob fillah, he is lost in the love of Allah, then there is more loss than benefit in staying close to him. Because if he says something, it will happen. And if he says a curse towards you, then you will be at loss. And therefore it is best to leave them at a distance. He walks into the garden, but Sayyidina Khwaja Ghareeb Nawaz radiallahu ta'ala, at the age of 15, when he sees him come in, he stands up. And Shaykh Ibrahim Kanduzi comes to Khwaja Ghareeb Nawaz and he says, I am a faqir of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I am faqir ila Allah. I am hungry. Feed this faqir of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Sayyidina Khwaja Ghareeb Nawaz took the best grapes he had in that garden and he placed them in front of him. Sayyidina Shaykh Ibrahim Kanduzi radiallahu ta'ala said, okay, look at my hands. Kor ki bimari. Some people translate it as leprosy. Or it was some sort of a disease in his hands. And he said, I can't eat with my hands, feed me with your hands. Sayyidina Khwaja Ghareeb Nawaz radiallahu ta'ala started picking them grapes and putting them in his mouth. He placed them in his mouth one after the other, patiently, without any form of disrespect. And after he finished placing all the grapes in his blessed mouth, he said, if you look into the pocket of my clothing at the front, you will find something. Sayyidina Khwaja Ghareeb Nawaz placed his hand in there and he found something, a morsel of food. He said, place this in my mouth. And he places it in the mouth of Shaykh Ibrahim Kanduzi. He chews it for a while and then he says, now take it out from my mouth and you eat it. Sayyidina Khwaja Ghareeb Nawaz radiallahu ta'ala, he himself says that when I placed that into my mouth and I chewed it, I felt a sudden burst in my heart, a burst of light and nur that started like a typhoon in my heart, and it started waving from here to there, and I couldn't understand what was happening. And suddenly I started disliking the world and its material. And I wanted to work towards the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I felt like I need to gain knowledge. I need to learn the ma'rifat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I need to learn the love of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So in that state, he says, I went to my mother and I said to my mother, oh my mother, I cannot carry on doing this. I have wasted so many years in this life. My destiny is not this. I want to go and seek knowledge for the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so that I can propagate the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I want to learn the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, so that I can be drowned in the love of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. After discussing and the mother's decision, Sayyida Wara, she said, go, I have given you permission to go and seek the knowledge of the deen. Now imagine, she is one mother with one son, that is all she has. Same as the blessed mother of Sayyidina Shaykh Al-Qadiri Jilani radiallahu anhu. But she sacrifices her son. And she says, go, I have given you permission to go and teach, to go and learn the religion. Go and become an alim of the deen. Go and study. And look at the people of our time. Look at the mothers of our time. Look at the fathers of our time. You know, I have seen children who are dying to go out and learn the deen. But the parents are saying, no, first go to university, complete university, and then you may go. This happened. But these were the awliya kiram. These were those who loved Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Sayyidina Khwaja Ghareeb Nawaz radiallahu ta'ala sold his garden. And he sold the milling machine. And he took whatever he had, whatever he felt he needed, and distributed the rest to the poor. And he left. And he left. And history says that he traveled throughout Central Asia. All throughout Central Asia. He traveled to Dimashq, he traveled to Kandahar, he traveled around Asfahan, that's where he was born. Sajj was in Asfahan, and this is all part of Uzbekistan today, which is known as Uzbekistan. He traveled throughout Iran, he traveled through Balkh, and he gained knowledge of ulum-e zahiriyah. He studied the Quran, he became a hafiz of the Quran, he studied tafsir, he studied ilm-e nahv, ilm-e sarf, the Arabic language. He studied ilm hadith and usul hadith. He learned asma rijal. He became a master in hadith. He would narrate hadith wherever he went, and people would gather around him to listen to the hadith. And then he learned fiqh. And Sayyidina Khwaja Ghareeb Nawaz radiallahu ta'ala became a great faqih of the Hanafi fiqh. He was a Hanafi. And there are several evidences to show that Sayyidina Khwaja Ghareeb Nawaz was a Hanafi faqih. And after he became a complete faqih, after spending several years studying in the feet of the ulama kiram, he then travels toward Baghdad Sharif. And he comes to
ज़मीनो ज़मां तुम्हारे लिए, मकीनो मकान तुम्हारे लिए।